Good to have you here. Okay, am I in the right place now? Negarajan, what's up? What is going on? Hi Jamshid, hi Zore, hi Michael. Good to see you. Hi Razin. Hi Alijan. Thanks for joining. Hi Sahar. We're going to be having one of the best live today, guys. My guest is Dr. Nasser Salehinia. He's a neuroscientist, so I haven't told him this yet. I think it's going to be a secret, but I'm thinking about convincing him to join live with me once a week. We'll see how it goes. But Dr. Nasser is a dear friend. We know one another for many, many, many years, and I have learned many things from him. So it's a pleasure to have him coming up today. And then, so guys, I might not be able to catch all your questions on Instagram. You still can ask your questions, but just in case, I'm also live on Facebook, Sudi_Burnett. So you can also ask me your question. So tell me, guys, where are you joining us from? Where are you from? Rahil. Yes, here we go. Hello. My dear guest friend, Dr. Nasser Salehinia is here. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Hi, Flower Timeless. Good to see you guys. Okay, Dr. Nasser, you need to send me a join request. That would be lovely while we're getting everybody else to join. Hi, Ariane. Hi, Hamina. Yes. Hello, love. How are you? Good to see you all here. Hi, Leila Jan. Okay. So, Sarjan, would you please guide Dr. Nasser how to send a join live request? Thank you. That would be lovely. Okay. Yes. So it's a beautiful day today, guys. I don't know where you're at. I know some of you live in Europe. It's your evening, or from Iran, it's your night. So as we know, we got Mercury retrograde for a couple of weeks. So a lot of internet issues and, miscommunications and all of this is going on. So that brings us to be extremely mindful these days, because also from Canada, hi Nafis Jam, we got to be very mindful, guys, and constantly be aware that many things are going on and it's not in our control right now. So basically what we need to do, let me see if I can get Dr. Nasser go live. I sent a request to you, so let's see if you can. Yes, here we go. Yeah. So we got to be extremely well. Hello, Dr. Nasser Salehinia.
Hello, Sudi. How are you?
I'm amazing. How about you?
I'm good. How's your hand?
My hand is getting functionable. It's getting much, much better. I'm learning how to use my left hand. Little by little, I'm starting to write with left hands, and this is a blessing from the sky, because now I learn how to work with a hand that it was never really used. So I'm very happy. I'm very excited because I'm picking up things. I'm using the different side of my brain. We're going to talk about all of this today.
I actually do that, Sudhi, every couple of weeks. I'm a right-handed person, and of course, I use the mouse for my computer on the right hand. And every couple of weeks, I switch to the left hand. And to begin with, it gets a little difficult, but very quickly you adjust to it and you sort of get it to work. So, good thing to do.
Yes, yes,
Good thing.
beautiful. I learned to slow down a little bit more. I was talking to a friend last night, and I
Mhm.
said, somehow we forget. We think what we teach to others, we don't have to live it and do it ourselves. So we think this teaching is to give it to someone else, and I'm immune to it. And now I learned that no, mindfulness, meditation, slowing down, not multitasking, it's for me too. So I'm back to the zero, starting from the beginning.
Good. That's a good thing. I'm going to turn this light on. My face is, I see my own picture as sort of dark. Is my picture coming through okay, or a little more light would be helpful?
A little more light will be helpful, but
Okay.
what I have also learned, Nasser, is that in in your phone itself, if you sometimes I'm not, I'm not so good at this stuff. I learned it from Sahar. But
Yep.
if you pull it down, your light sometimes comes down, and you need to bring it to the full light again.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do that next time. I don't want to mess with this one,
We
right?
will do that. And
Okay.
while you
Or I can
were,
open up some of these windows. Hold on one second. Give me a second.
all right. Okay. Hello. 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 Hello.
That's better.
That's beautiful.
Okay, good.
Yes, they say your picture is good. Yeah,
Good.
they like you anyway. No worries. Yeah. So, Nasser John, let's dive into it, because I'm sure that we're gonna learn a lot from you. And I have told them that I don't know how long we've been friends, 10 years or whatever. I have learned so much from you, and I'm blessed to have you in my life, because you're a teacher, you're a master, so let's get into neuroscience
Okay, sounds good. What do you want? Do you
today.
want to talk about the subject that we proposed?
Yes, yes, that would be
Okay.
lovely.
Okay, sounds good. So the subject we proposed was basically the role that our brain and minds play in creating our judgments and our beliefs, and what the impact of that is in our daily lives, right? That's
Yes,
what we talked about, correct?
exactly. Yes.
Okay, so this is a subject that's been sort of circling in my head in the past few weeks, and as I started thinking, kind of thought in the past 40 years or so that I personally have been involved, interested in this whole area of personal development, personal growth, all that stuff, everything that we read from the Western psychology to the Eastern philosophies, thou shalt not judge, all that good stuff, it always advises us not to judge. But not to my knowledge, I personally haven't read anywhere that says how not to judge. It tells you not to do it, but how do you not do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started thinking, and since I've been in the field of neuroscience, I thought, the reason that none of them have said anything to us about the not how to is because there is no such a thing. We cannot not judge. The brain is a judging machine, basically. And how does that work? The brain's first and foremost task is our survival. And the way it does that, it constantly makes judgments about what is safe, what is not safe for us.
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, we make decisions, and based on those decisions, we take actions, right?
Right.
So, for example, I decide to cross the street, and I look at the car coming my way, and the brain makes a very simple and quick calculation whether the speed of the car traveling is faster than my speed of crossing the street. And if it is faster, I come to a no decision. If it's slower, I come to a yes decision, and I take action because of that, and I safely cross the streets, right? The experience all of us are having in everyday life, whether it's crossing the street, whether eating a plate of food, whether many things that we do is based on that. So the first level of judgments that the brain does is what we call evaluative judgments. It evaluates things. It looks at things in a very simple way and evaluates it, and based on that makes a decision. Evaluative decisions, as I said, judgments, as I said, is something that the brain does second by second by second by second, and internally looks at our body, because the body and the mind needs to be in a homeostatic state, in a balanced state all the time, and it makes a decision whether the fever I'm having is too dangerous for me, what do I need to do that, so on and so forth. So first kind of a decision that we come up with, first kind of a judgment we come up with is evaluative judgments. Mm-hmm. So far, so good?
Beautiful, yes.
Okay. Then let's talk about the second kind of judgment that we have. I decide, let's say, to buy a car. Mm-hmm. And I go and do all my homework. And the first thing I look at, based on what my brain tells me, is that whether this car is safe for me or not. I do all the calculations. How much do I drive? What kind of a traffic am I in? How long will this car last me? So on and so forth. And I come up with a decision that says, for my purpose, this car serves me well. It is a safe car that I should invest in. Mm-hmm. Now, the second layer comes in, and that is that I go into what we call the discriminative judgments. Discriminative judgment says what? Does this car reflect who I am? Mm-hmm. Does this car portray who I want to be? What would my neighbors say if I were to drive this car home? What would my friends say? What kind of other people are driving this car, and does their social and financial status meet mine, or doesn't? And
how does it add value to me?
Exactly. And now what we are seeing, we have seen that for many, many years, and advertising does a wonderful job on that, is that even if you cannot afford it, go buy an expensive car so that you can project an image larger than who you are, so that people will take you as an important person, and people basically will respect you in ways that otherwise you cannot gain, right? Mm-hmm. So we enter the discriminative judgments. Once we enter that realm, the mind gets involved. Why the mind gets involved is because the brain itself does not have any discriminative capabilities. The brain is a very simple organ, as sophisticated as it is a very simple organ. As soon as we get into this discriminative judgment level, the mind gets involved. Mm-hmm. Why? Because our values are based on the beliefs that we have behold. Where do our beliefs come from? Our education, our upbringing, our religion, our own thoughts about ourselves, about our society, so on and so on and so on. The mind stores these beliefs deep down within its own crevices, and as soon as we want to make a decision that has to do with our values, goes and grabs those values, and then it goes into an evaluative process whether what I'm looking for matches those beliefs or not. Mm-hmm. So far, so good?
Great, yes.
Okay. So now these beliefs are deep. We even don't know what they are. And we spend most of our lives trying to sort of get rid of our beliefs by grabbing into our subconscious mind, so to speak, by doing all kinds of stuff. But then, a whole different story. So as soon as the belief system comes into play, the mind has a bias. One of its biases is called the confirmation bias. What does that mean? It looks for, processes the information, accesses the kind of information, allows you to view the kind of information that exactly confirms the beliefs that you already hold. Mm-hmm. right? And since we all would like to be right all the time, nobody wants to be wrong, then we very much believe in the confirmation process, and we very much believe in what we see. What's a good example of that? And so what the mind does, it goes out into our external world as well as our internal world and starts looking for information that matches our existing belief system. What does that mean? I decide to buy a white car.
Mm-hmm.
From the moment I make that decision, every car that I see on the street, I notice them.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I have created the belief that a white car somehow reflects my values, what I like to have, so on and so forth. The mind says, great, let me go confirm that information for you. And it goes, grabs any information out there and puts my attention on that specific information that confirms that belief.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
So what happens then is that our beliefs create our judgments, and our judgments create our beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And in our daily lives, we sort of go back and forth between the two. We get caught up between the two.
Mm-hmm.
The brain does the evaluative judgment, the mind does the discriminative judgment. Our beliefs back up the discrimination judgments. As soon as the discriminative judgment comes into play, the evaluative judgment gets complex and cannot evaluate things properly. We end up with all kinds of wrong decisions. What do? We start beating ourselves up for making the wrong decisions, not realizing that we have gotten ourselves caught up in a no-win situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it impacts us in our daily lives. So let's bring that home now.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Let's bring it into people and the decisions we make and the judgment we have on others.
Very good. So let's move away for a second about judgments we have on others, because the entity that we have the harshest judgments on is about ourselves to begin with, whether we are aware of it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of a judgments is it that we have about ourselves? I am ... this kind of a person. I'm posing that to you as well as to the people who are with us.
Mm-hmm.
Think for a second about one of the judgments that you have about yourself.
Okay. Should I announce it? Do you want to know?
It's up to you. It's up to you. It's whether you feel you like to announce it.
Well, if I could have get a little more personal, I would have shared something that you said to me the other day.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Guys, you should hear our offline conversation.
No, let's not go that deeply now.
There we go. Okay, no, I'm not going to share what you said to me, but what one of the judgments I have towards myself regarding my action is somehow we might say this is like more about, because for me it's not about me, but it's more about others. So what I generally used to think, and I'm trying to get away from it, if someone around me for some reason doesn't feel good or anything, that's my fault, or it's my responsibility to see how fast and quickly I can change their bad feeling or being down or depressed or whatever. So that's the judgment I have. I will be able or capable to move them from this place to a better place.
Okay, let me rephrase that for a second to see if I heard you correctly. Mm-hmm. If I'm unable to help others, I am not good enough.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that's the judgment you have about yourself.
Yes.
All right. And that sort of goes back to our conversation of being a rescuer and so on and so forth, but yes, we'll do away with that for now. So what kind of a belief do you have that backs that up? I just said it.
Yeah, you just said, yeah, that if I don't help others to shift or move from the state that they're in, it's my fault, and behind that is I'm not good enough.
There we
So
go. So the
it's
belief
I'm
behind
not
that
good
is that
enough.
I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
Recently, Sudhi, have you had experience in your life with other people in your life that you have not been able to help that has reinforced that belief of I'm not good enough?
It's kind of, I really got it because I'm working with so many people, and there's so many people are
Well,
around me.
let's take a couple of them close to you,
Yeah,
close.
yeah,
Yeah,
try,
okay.
yes.
All right, so that's exactly what happens. I
Mhm.
have a belief about me, I'm not good enough, and the mind, since the mind basically likes this kind of a conversation, the mind really would like to get a hold of something that it can play with and manipulate you with and run with it, right? So the mind goes and starts looking for all kinds of reasons, all kinds of information that reinforces that belief in you
Mhm.
and comes back and steals the kind of actions and decisions that actually bring that belief to be true because the mind's confirmation process is heavily into play now.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you realize now with this little exercise that we did, why the self-help market is a $16 billion market and nothing
Oh,
happens?
yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So it's a lot simpler than that. We really do not need to dig into our unconscious. We really do not need to go into the Freudian phenomenon of did my mother do my father, all that good stuff. All we need to do is to take a look at the kind of judgments I have about me.
Hmm.
What is the belief that is supporting that? Now, the question then becomes, once I understand what the belief is,
Uh-huh.
what do I do with that?
Right.
You just
Exactly.
understood that your belief
I'm not
about
good enough. Now, what do I do with it?
what do you do with it, right?
Hmm.
You do something that the mind hates and it will resist it and it will fight you over it and it won't give up. But once it gives up, it's done.
Now,
And then
let's take a step back. Why,
okay.
why does my mind fights it?
Because the mind is a player. The mind is a problem solver.
Hmm.
It likes to create problems so it can go solve it for you, supposedly, so
Right.
that it can prove to you over and over again its usefulness and the fact that you're constantly thinking and your thinking does very little for you.
Hmm.
The only thing that thinking is good for is supporting and responding to your immediate needs.
Hmm.
Take a look at some of the creative ideas you have had in your life. It has come in moments of deep relaxation,
Right.
not in moments of thinking.
Exactly.
So thinking is about problem solving and is about responding to our immediate needs. And what we have learned to use the thinking for is moral issues, values, and so on and so forth. And the mind loves it because you have given it a new toy to play with.
Now, here's my question. When I realized that behind all this reaction is I'm not good enough, so why doesn't my mind think about, okay, let's work on find a solution for why I'm not good enough?
Excellent question, because the brain has a built-in capability called negativity bias.
Hmm.
It's part of the inner brain, and negativity bias is something that we have developed over time from being originally the small brain to what we are now supposedly the big brain. And the negativity bias is a survival mechanism that every 5 seconds the amygdala in your midbrain keeps looking for information, causes, anything that can be of any kind of a risk to you and your survival. And there is nothing you can do about it. They call it the amygdala hijack. There's nothing you can do about it. So whatever information you give to the mind that communicates to the brain that there is something wrong in here, the brain and the mind sort of join forces and they say, oh yes, of course there is something wrong in here. Let's go and find out how we can create more of anxiety, because the brain develops anxiety as a signal to us. Right?
Right.
But the brain cannot solve itself. Teeth cannot repair itself. Eyes cannot see themselves. So, but there is a trick to it.
What's that?
And the trick is, as a way of bringing the mind to its rational, supposedly, basis and quieting it down and using it for what it is, you bring your beliefs under question. How do I know I'm not good enough? Can I prove I'm not good enough? And under what circumstances? When? When is the last time I was not good enough? And you keep bringing your beliefs under question. Questioning the mind is the only way to get to it through its back door. The mind is not a rational system. It is a highly emotional system. Extremely, extremely sophisticated and intelligent. Would love to play with you. The monkey mind, as you well know, is what we live with. And the only way for you to go back to what we've been told, God knows how many years ago, about not judging, to begin with yourself, is taking one step back about what belief is backing that judgment. And how do I know that belief to be true?
So we have to start questioning the mind. How do you know?
We have to start questioning the belief itself, the specific belief itself. I am not good enough. Under what circumstances? To what standards? To whose standards? When?
But we're asking these questions from the mind, right?
Yeah. The mind is the origin. The mind is what creates and holds our beliefs. Correct. But the reason I emphasize the belief is that we don't want to address the mind. We want to address specifically what the mind has produced, which is that specific belief. So your mind just played a really interesting thing with you. As soon as the mind knows you're getting close to some of the areas that it feels uncomfortable with, it will defocus you.
Oh, yeah.
It will defocus you.
Yeah.
And like a unruly child, it needs to be disciplined a few times, and then it will take the cue.
It's like sometimes, we want to do something, and then we have planned that we have a goal and we're going to stick to it. And once we start actually doing it, your mind tricks you into, like at that moment, anything else could be more interesting, even washing the floor or,
Yes.
like I hate dusting, but at that moment, if I say, for instance, I'm going to start working out, I haven't worked out for a while, from this first thing in the morning, my mind makes anything interesting, like gardening. How about if I garden a little bit and then vacuum? How about if I do this and then go shopping? And then, so it comes up with anything, even the stuff that you hate. How amazing is that?
Actually, the stuff that you hate becomes quite interesting. Because the mind will do anything to distract you from looking at it in a deeper way. And the only way you can look at the mind in a deep way is by questioning it.
So we have a question from Ali. He said, what is the next step after we question our beliefs?
Keep questioning it until you come to an idea that belief itself does not have any basis. So let's take your example. I'm not good enough. According to whose standards? Well, the question is, I don't know. There are about 8 billion people in this world. Who have I compared myself with?
Mm-hmm.
When am I not good enough? When I'm cooking something, when I'm at the movie theater, when I'm with a friend, when I'm driving. What we need to do with the mind in terms of getting through the back door is coming out of his generalized ways of looking at things and breaking it down into smaller pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then the mind does not have the power to look at shattered stuff. That's why it distracts you. It does not want to be taken apart.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to keep questioning according to what, or what who's saying that. How would I know if it's true? What other way could I be looking at this? We keep asking questions, and then we kind of draining the thoughts until we get to the point that we see that, this statement is not really valid. It's
Right.
just right. So okay.
Let me just say, not the statement, the belief itself.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
And since once we break it down into pieces, the mind will lose its energy. And so what happens when the mind loses its energy? We have about 100 billion neurons in our brain, right? And the information from one side of the brain to the other side of the brain takes about 1/10 of a second to be communicated. So imagine you have a wire, at one end of it is a battery, at the other end of it is a light, correct? And these two are connected with a wire, and the energy from the battery is transferred to the light that lights up through this wire.
Yeah.
So this is the energy of thought moving.
Mm-hmm.
Now you come in and you have a sharp set of scissors and you cut that wire.
Right.
What happens?
They fall apart.
The light is not light up anymore.
Right.
It does not light up anymore. So, and that's exactly what happens. Once you start bringing the mind under question and a specific belief under the question, you're cutting off the energy field that goes from the battery into the light. So that neuron itself is not active anymore. And what we have in here is something called neurogenesis.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with neurogenesis is that this number of neurons, because not one neuron that communicates, there are millions of them that are communicating at the same time. Once we cut off the energy to one of them, the one next to it gets less energy, and the one next to it gets less energy. And soon enough, those level of neurons that are holding that belief and maintaining that belief for us begin not to have the kind of energy to be able to communicate to the other parts of the mind and the brain. As soon as that happens, very much like a rose that has dried up, they call it neural pruning. Those neurons starts breaking off.
Right.
And since the brain needs to communicate on a second by second basis about our survival, neurogenesis begin to happen. New neurons begin to grow very rapidly. And those neurons are not the same neurons that are communicating and carrying the signals of that old belief anymore.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Beautifully said.
Sorry?
I said beautifully said.
Right. So this is the way to permanent change. Digging into our minds, trying to understand where things come from and why they come from. To me, that's all old psychology. The field of neuroscience has really has made it very clear that unless the neural activity of the brain changes, no permanent change will take place.
Got it.
That's why we go to all kinds of workshops. We come out and we are ready to be the president of the world.
Now, I got a challenge here. So
you got a challenge from you or from somebody else?
Okay, let's start by me because it's all about me.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, here's the deal, Nasser. Now I am aware that the programming or the app that's on is I am not good enough, right? Okay, so now that I know that this app is open and is present, but how often do I have to repeat this? Because the majority of time, from the morning when I wake up, right, if I'm aware of my action or what's going on around me, if I'm aware, I know that I'm in this app of not my actions or reactions is
Yep.
I'm not enough, right?
Yep.
So that's in that state, obviously, I'm not even aware that the program is running.
Let,
So I'm not going to, yeah.
let me rephrase what I heard to see if I heard it quickly, and it's an excellent question. What I heard is that how do I know that that program I'm not good enough is running in the background?
Yes.
Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, you heard me correctly, because I have to be aware that this program is running, but the
Yep.
majority of time I'm not aware to even notice that the program is running, to get to the step that you're saying, okay, let's question why, voila.
I'm going to tell you how to do that.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
really, really simple and is built within us. You cannot create awareness about the mind itself. Mind cannot be aware of itself.
Right.
Right? So therefore, when the program is running in the background and the mind is running it, you cannot be aware of the mind running it, because the mind is trying to understand the mind.
Yeah.
You cannot wash water with water.
Right.
Right? Okay. But how do you do it then? Really, really simple and very powerful. Your body. As soon as we step into the discriminatory judgment process about ourselves and or others, we feel a sort of pressure and tension in the body.
Repeat that again.
Okay, so have a judgment about somebody, Sudhi. Have a judgment about you. I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You're
Yeah.
having it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Pick a very specific situation where you can pinpoint that says, I'm not good enough about this, rather than a generalized statement.
Yeah, going back to the same thing that we talked about earlier, that if I'm, for instance, doing a session with someone, and in one session I cannot change her state or his state
Okay.
fully, then it's my shortcoming and I'm not good enough. I'm not
Okay.
capable.
Okay. So let me rephrase to see if I heard you correctly. I'm not good enough if I cannot help somebody within a specific time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So feel that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Really feel that. You're really not good enough, Sudhi.
Mm-hmm.
How does your body feel right now?
When I hear this statement, I'm not good enough, in my body I feel like curving more down
That's it. That's it.
rather than when I'm
Opening up.
empowered. Yeah.
Exactly. That's your body has trillions more cell than your brain does.
Mm-hmm.
It holds tremendously more amount of information than your brain does. It processes information a lot faster because it's deeply connected to your biological survival rather than your mental survival. If you learn to observe your body, your life becomes really simple and your decisions become a lot more accurate. That's where that whole feeling of gut feeling comes from, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I'm not promoting at all that gut feelings are always correct. No, they are not. Gut feelings are about considering something that you have not considered through your mental process, right? Not that just because I'm feeling that is true.
Mm-hmm.
However, when it comes to judgments and the awareness of that I'm having a discriminatory judgment, the body feels it, the sense of pressure, the sense of tension. I sort of want to protect myself. Now, I would like you to make an evaluative judgment. For example, should I be drinking tea this morning or water?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How does your body feel?
um, kind of like in the middle, like being pulled by two sides. Should I go to the right or should I go to the left?
Right. It's a very simple yes and no answer.
Mhm.
But do you feel that tension, that pressure, that feeling of wanting to protect?
Wanting to protect.
Or you said sort of bending over and holding in. I'm calling that
Oh, we're
protecting.
going. I mean, moving back to the other one. Yeah, in that case is when I'm feeling I'm not good enough, then my body automatically becomes small.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Does it do the same thing when you're thinking about drinking coffee or water?
no,
Okay, very good. That's your indication. As soon as we step into an discriminative judgment about ourselves and others, and remember, before we pass judgment on anyone, we have done it to ourselves to begin with.
right.
And all of our judgments are based on four phenomena: right or wrong, good and bad.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if you stay away from this right or wrong, good and bad, positive and negative, basically, this positive psychology is a bunch of baloney. There is no such a thing as positive psychology, and there is no such a thing as negative psychology. Reality is what reality is.
Mm-hmm.
The reason we give it negative or positive is that when we give it a negative connotation, is something has happened I don't like. When we give it a positive connotation, that means something has happened that I like.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is right, one of them is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And human system, from our brain to our biology, including the universe we live in, is based on paradox. Black and white complement each other and they exist with each other next to each other. So, therefore, as soon as we go into a judgment process about somebody else, so and so is, that's another great indication of coming back and saying, oh, what kind of a belief do I have about myself that I'm passing that judgment? What is the judgment I'm passing about me that I'm now projecting it onto somebody else because I'm afraid to look at it myself?
Mm-hmm.
Again, the best indication, the body. As soon as
But here's the thing. I need to stop you for a second also.
Yep.
Okay, I'm not aware that this program is running through my mind, but then you're saying, okay, come to the body. I still need awareness to come to the body and see how it feels.
Right. No, you don't need awareness. You're constantly aware all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to pay attention.
Okay.
You're constantly aware. If you were not aware, you would be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole thing of become present, I can play some music behind that, it doesn't make sense. We are constantly present. If we weren't present, we would be dead. Now, we have different levels of awareness. I am right now completely focused on our conversation and I'm not present to what's happening behind me, but I don't need to. But I'm present. If immediate sound of something drops behind me, I will immediately turn and look at it and I will become present to that.
So let me ask you a question because I didn't quite buy that. When I'm driving somewhere and I'm driving, but I reach my destination and I ask myself this question, how did I get there? I wasn't present, I wasn't aware. This thinking machine or this machine has taken me there. I don't buy it that you're saying we don't need awareness because we can live very unconsciously about what's going on and we're just going through this from our habits or doing it. So
let's have a distinction between awareness and attention.
Okay.
So how did you get there is because your brain is a habit-making machine.
Right.
It has created a habit for you to get into a thing we call a car that has four running things in it, and you give it a direction, and if you don't know the direction, you put it on a map, whatever, and it gives you direction to get there. right? And you do that a few times, you don't need the map anymore. You have now built a habit how to get yourself to a certain place. Therefore, as you're driving, you don't need the kind of a constant awareness about your driving process unless somebody sort of pulls in front of you.
In
So
another way, I am not aware.
no, you're aware, but you have decided to put your attention someplace else. You're
Okay.
constantly aware. You cannot not be aware. It's a matter of where you put your attention on.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Okay.
attention at this point is about our conversation. But then you go away from moment to moment and a question comes up for you. Your attention goes on that question and you come back and you bring that question to a conversation between us. So, and you can, at the same time, you cannot be thinking about that question and hearing me at the same time. The mind, the brain can do one thing at a time. This multitasking is the worst thing that we can do for ourselves because the brain is not capable of it.
Yeah, we know that. Okay. So now going back to the same example, if someone is driving and they get there and they say, so you're saying that my attention could be somewhere else on some thoughts or yesterday or the argument last night, but the mind, since it's familiar or has done that or know the way or the road or whatever, the mind is taking you there, but your attention is not about what's going on, and you're saying you're still aware. The awareness is there that you're driving and going to work, right?
Right. Your attention, basically the attention process is developed to pay attention to what's most important at the moment. Right? Mm-hmm. So when I'm driving somewhere and I know the road and I feel safe and I don't feel my survival is any kind of a danger, then my attention doesn't need to be on that anymore. So for example, with me, since I've come back to LA, I'm really afraid of driving now because people drive in very interesting ways. So yeah. I found myself before that, I used my driving time to think about some of the stuff that's interesting to me. Now I'm finding that I'm not using that time for that, and I'm paying constant attention to my driving and other people's driving. Therefore, once I get to my destination, I'm exhausted. Right? So yeah. The brain will decide where your attention is needed, all of it on the foundation of protecting your survival.
Okay, good. Let's repeat that one more time so it really sinks in.
Say it again.
I said repeat that last sentence so it really sinks in.
Your brain on a moment-to-moment basis decides where your attention needs to be on for the best way to protect your survival.
Okay.
On a moment,
it's about safety.
It's always about safety.
Right.
It's always about safety. The brain does not understand anything else. The brain, there are three things that the brain survives on basically, or is made for rather. Survival, connection, progress. That's why we constantly want to work on ourselves. We constantly want to improve ourselves. We have lost our way, but we don't give up.
Right.
That's why we see in this corona area how much more usage of alcohol and depression drugs and relationships that have gone bad comes about because we are not able to connect. Our level of tension is so high, we are not able to connect anymore. Mm-hmm. And of course, our survival. Everything that we do is about our survival. Mm-hmm. Look at the entire universe. Everything is about 3 meals per day and having a roof over your head. Doesn't matter at which level you do it. Somebody wants to live in 50,000 square foot. Sometimes 20 people live in 100 square foot. But it's all of our activities are around survival. And that's where the mind was developed, to solve our survival problems. And that's the only thing the mind is good for.
Mm-hmm. So now I have another question. How do we, what happens for those who are more courageous, they take more risks and stuff. And those are who are always very fearful. Even if they don't have, there's nothing going wrong in their lives, they always worry about the future. We had a question a while back. Um, what happens when we're constantly worrying about the economy or the earthquake or this or that? So when you look at these two types of brain, the brain that someone is very courageous and they're doing and they're taking risk and they're not afraid of stuff, versus someone who is always very afraid, is very um, even if they don't have a reason to be worried about, they start their mind start worrying about what's going to happen in the future. How is the am I going to be safe? Is the economy going to be fine? What's going to happen with COVID?
And what's the question?
The question is, do you know what makes some brains to go to that side? Is the background more safety for those who are taking more risk and more courageous, or what is it? How does it work?
Let me answer that question in a fundamental way. And that is, one, if I heard you correctly, one person is more fearful, one person is less fearful.
Yeah. And I'm also talking about risk taking.
I'm saying that that's less, I'm putting that in the category of less fearful.
Okay.
Right? So let me fundamentally, let's look at the fear, and then maybe the answer to that question will come about.
Okay.
We go into a state of fear under one condition, and that is when we believe our capabilities to protect our safety are less than the danger that we are facing. So let me repeat that in a different way. Whenever I feel I'm incapable of protecting my own survival, physical and mental, I go into a emotional process that we have called fear.
Right.
People who are willing to take risk have come to a conclusion for themselves and have created a belief for themselves that whatever happens is within my capability to take care of. Mm-hmm. And if it's not within my personal capability, I have the resources to be able to take care of it. Therefore, regardless of what happens, I will be safe mentally and physically. People who are more cautious, people who are more fearful, so to speak, have come to a conclusion. I have no problem with the right or wrong of it because we don't know. Have come to a conclusion that whatever can happen, may happen, is beyond my capability to take care of my own safety. That's the fundamental way of looking at risk-taking, fear, all the stuff that you talked about.
Now, let me ask you another question. How much of that do you think is related to my childhood upbringing? Like, for instance, myself, when I was a little kid, I could do anything. Like, it wasn't like, don't go on top of the tree, don't do this. So I was easily was able to do whatever I pleased. But on the contrary, if your upbringing is someone who's fear-based, your caregiver, don't do this, that's dangerous, like fear-based coming from the caregivers, how much of that is related to this being today in the same topics of I am more courageous, I take more risks, and I'm not afraid, versus someone who's very scared? Do you think that's
Sudhi, of course, our beliefs are built on the indoctrinations that we have received in our upbringing, in our religion, in our educational system, so on and so forth. Now, if we look at the culture that we came from, the Persian culture, is an extremely fear-based culture. Mm-hmm. And we are seeing the results of it on a day-to-day basis here.
Yeah.
If we look at some other cultures, you see that the schooling is basically an indoctrination process. You have to do things a certain way. So coming back to your question, of course it is related. However, the question for us comes to, at what point in my life do I mature? And maturity has sort of different levels. One level
Yeah.
of maturity is that how much of the influence that I grew up with would I allow to continue running my life in the future? That's where the field of psychotherapy has become, it is what it is, because people come across their own limitations. They feel unable to either look at it and or deal with it, and then they go talk to somebody, which is a very good thing if you can find the right person to talk to be able to get an insight into how can I get over my own limitations. Remember, one of the tenets of the brain is progress. That's why we have developed the prefrontal cortex and other animals don't, because we humans are into progress. We always want to move one step higher than what we think is possible. And we are seeing that in every part of our world except human relations to one another. We have progressed in every possible way. We are sending vehicles to the moon and back. Artificial intelligence is taking over our lives. For the first time in the history of humanity, we have developed a vaccine within a very short period of time. So on and so on and so on. Our progress in terms of human capability is amazing, except when it comes to one-to-one and human-to-human relationships. So therefore, and why is that? Because the powers to, I really don't want to go into a political thing, and this is not a political statement, but rather than a statement about fear, is that if humans were to unite, the structure of what we know to be the world as we have now would fall apart completely. So going away from that is we have to look at the fear, and every fear, just like every judgment, is based on a kind of a belief. We got to question it. We have to learn to question our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our judgments. The only way we are going to get over our own limitations and allow our brain to really become a partner with us in our progress is questioning, not wrestling, not beating, not anything else. The brain and the mind are far more powerful, far smarter than you wanting to beat them.
Yeah.
The only way to work with them and bring them into your side is through the back door. And the back door is questioning.
So Nasser, let's narrow it down and put it into steps. So step one is I recognize what's the judgment I have towards myself.
And how do you recognize it? Just since you're bringing it to a closure, how would you recognize it?
How would I recognize it? By question, generally like something that's a pattern, and I see like I'm constantly getting into a wrong relationship or whatever, something that I see, or when I'm conscious, or I know you don't like to use those words, but these are my words, and I'm not giving them up. Okay.
That's fine.
So when I'm aware of repeated feeling down or
let's make it a little easier, Sudhi.
Okay.
Pay attention to your body. When your body goes into a state of pressure and tension, pay attention to it and ask yourself, what kind of a judgment am I having?
Right.
And then ask the question, what is the belief that is supporting that judgment? Forget about the judgment. The judgment is like the first layer. It's just trying to get your attention. Go beyond that. What is the belief that is supporting that judgment? Step 3, how do I know that belief to be true? Is that belief, even if it is true, is that belief useful to me right now? Is it useful to me to go out on the street and throw a temper tantrum? No, it's not. I'm going to get arrested. But it was really useful when I was 6 months of age and I threw a temper tantrum because I could not speak and I was hungry, and that was my way of expression. It was very helpful. So we have to look at what is helpful to us at different stages of our lives.
Right. But I want to have it step by step. So
we just did the step by step. We did
huh?
We just did step by step. Step one, become aware of your body. When you get it, when you feel some sort of a pressure and tension, when you're passing a judgment, become aware of your body.
But at the beginning, I'm sorry to interrupt you. At the beginning, you were saying that you're questioning the mind, and then you come into the feeling stage. But now you're putting the
no. What is there is nothing of the mind to question unless some issue comes up. So the first thing is the judgment itself. I'm having a judgment right now about that Buddha on the left-hand side that you have in there. I'm having a judgment that should not be there. So as soon as I said that to you.
So that step one is mental then.
The step one, of course, is mental. We are trapped in that thing. But then I cannot recognize the mental with mental. How do I know that's a judgment? How do I know that's not the evaluative judgment? It's not a discriminative or evaluative. I want to leave the evaluative alone. I want to come to the discriminative. How do I know I'm having discriminative judgment? I feel the pressure in my body. I feel that sense of tension, like being connected to a 12-volt battery almost.
Right.
Okay, so my judgment is that that thing should not be there. So what belief in me is supporting that judgment? The belief is maybe Sudhi is trying to say that she is a spiritual person. That's the belief, right?
Right.
So how do I know that belief to be true? I really don't. I really don't. That might be that you were passing by this morning and you decided to put that thing there. I don't know that. And even if I did, is that belief useful to me right now to establishing this connection you and I are having? No, it's not useful. So as soon as I take away the belief, I sort of push it apart, question it, the belief loses its energy. And the judgment goes away because it has nothing to support it. So
yes.
We talked about 3 steps.
Okay. So now, is there, how would you say, like, is there a number of times that I have to do this? How do we go to that state? Like, in order to change the patterns of neurons, the way the neurons are wiring, you talked about it, how do you have to disrupt that? But how often do I have to do this?
Sudhijan, it really comes to the what I call the thickness of that belief. So, for example, people who have deep religious beliefs, that belief is really thick.
Right.
It really depends where you're coming from. It depends how thick the belief is. And it also depends how much you care about overcoming your own limitations and not giving to the mind's confirmation process and wanting to be right. Once we give up wanting to be right, we really come to a state of not caring. Not caring in the terms of that statue is there, so it's there. Okay, so what? Sudhi is talking to me and moving back and forth. Great. So a sense of freedom comes about. Once you feel that sense of freedom, the firing of the neurons have changed.
So,
and you can sway back and forth if you like. I have no judgment about that.
Well, you can have your judgment. I don't give a hoot. Is that state of no, as when I sit to do a live, my whole vertebrae is
I
kind
was
of,
just kidding. You
I
can do
know it's
whatever
kind
you
of
like.
pulling. So I have to, by
I,
swinging, I'm also moving like the back, like
you can,
opening up this.
I was just kidding.
Yes, you better. Now, sir, let's move on to um, judgment because in our community, especially, we're facing this a lot, and people are now aware of how much they're having judgment towards other or the way they're being seen. So I want to specific. I know we talked about this, everything was generalized, but I want you specifically because you don't know my audience. You have to say specifically, not judging others so they can, oh, I got my answer. Otherwise, it's like, I still don't know. So let's just specifically talk about judging others of their judgments towards me. In another word, simplest way, not to give a hood of how others view me or their opinion of me.
Okay. Once you stop judging yourself, how others judge you will make no difference to you.
Beautiful. So I have to stop judging myself. There was this guru I listened
You don't
to.
have to stop judging yourself. There is the whole world of stop giving up,
Yeah.
moving away, and all that stuff. That's not the way the brain works. You cannot stop it.
Okay.
The brain is a judge machine. It does that for our survival. You
Right.
need to bypass that judgment by questioning the belief that supports it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and since you talked about our culture is one that, after all the years of teaching in Iran and all that stuff, our culture is one that wants things fast and quick and easy.
Yeah, I think that's kind of in this day and age, Nasser is everywhere with Americans, with European. By the way, before I skip this question, they asked you, can you recommend a book? Yes, I can recommend. Not Dr. Nasser Salehinia has written this amazing. Nasser, tell us about your book.
The book is called You Lead You, and YOULEADYOU. You can find it on my site, which is at youleadyou.net. And there is a button that you can purchase it on Amazon. And thank you. Yeah, I've had some great feedback about my book. And in
Yeah.
the book, I address the issues that you and I talk about in a very simple, and the book is full of exercises, as you probably have noticed. I try to stay away from philosophy, and that is scientific facts, and then how do we get around this?
Is it on
Today
Amazon?
is on Amazon, yes.
Okay. Yes, Alan is on Amazon too. But you can
And
also purchase it from his website.
yeah, which is
You,
also as you lead you at youleadyou.net.
yeah.
Maybe your assistant, if she be kind enough, she can. I sent her my site. She can post my site's address so other people can easily find it if you don't
Yes,
mind.
Sarjan, please write Dr.
She
Nasser. Yeah, Dr. Nasser's website so people can go. I think it's even better if you go directly to his website instead of Amazon.
So somebody is saying, can you please put book's name in story? Maybe again your assistant
Yeah,
can do that.
Sahar will do that. Yes.
No, my book is not in Iran. We are trying to translate it, and with the latest stuff, we haven't been able to, but hopefully soon. And then I have one more book in play that should be coming out in about 6 months or so. It's called Fire Up Your Brain.
Mhm.
And but the first book is a good start. It goes deep inside how the mind and the brain work and all that good stuff. And also for those of you who speak Farsi, which I'm seeing a lot of you,
Yeah,
you can also see some of my posts and some of my speeches on my Instagram site, which is at Dr. Nasser Salehiniya, all one word. And again, if your assistant would be kind enough to post all of those, then that would be great.
yeah. So someone is asking, is it accessible in Iran?
Is not accessible, and somebody said I would like to translate it. Very happy to speak with you. If you be kind enough to send me a message on my Instagram, would love to speak with you about it, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, by the way, we got great translators, Nasser, a couple of people who are helping me out with posts. Great people, great girls in Iran who are translating. I'm very happy and pleased with them.
Very
So,
good. I
yeah, we
appreciate that.
probably can get help to do this.
Perfect.
So, Nasser, coming back, someone asked again, um, if how do I stop judging myself? Let's go through that process because we got distracted.
Okay, so how do you stop judging yourself? How do you cook rice? You start with what rice cooks in, right?
Yeah,
Which is what? Hot water.
hot.
Okay,
Mhm.
so how do you get hot water? You put water, you put it in a pot, and you turn a heat on it, and it goes.
Yeah,
What fortifies our judgments? The belief. The
yeah.
belief is the one that gives judgments its life, right? Okay, so whenever you're having a judgment about yourself, what I really recommend, if
Mhm.
you want to get to the bottom of this quickly and really effectively, don't do this in your head. Write it down. Writing does amazing thing
Oh,
because
yeah.
it brings the mind out of its remuneration process. Remuneration is that sort of that keeps going over and over and over again. And mind does that as a way of trying to find an answer, but it never gets to it.
Uh-huh.
It confuses itself even more. So write it down. As soon as you write something down and write down the entire process of questioning your beliefs, you'll be amazed how much deeper you can get. You'll be amazed by going back and rereading it, how many more answers will come out of it. So write it down. I'm having a judgment about myself that I am not or I am, whatever that is. Then come back to the thing of what belief is supporting that judgment. Write it down. Put the book down, put the notebook down for a few days. Keep coming back to it every day. Keep writing it. Keep writing it. Keep finding all the legs that support that belief. And I
Mhm.
promise you, it's going to be more than one or two or three legs. It has many legs on it.
So,
And
Nasser, as we're writing down, would you recommend that we just let the hand go and not try to edit it at the time?
you
Or
know,
would,
ask the question. Yes, sure. Ask the question and let whatever comes to you to write itself out without editing, without anything. But automatic writing is what you are recommending, and I completely agree.
okay,
Whatever comes to you, write it down. And don't look at it for making sense, being logical. Oh, this doesn't make
right.
sense. Or this never happened. Or this, forget it. Just let yourself go. Let the mind
Parastu, Jun, I'm
empty
sorry.
out.
Parastu, this live will be saved, honey. It's going to be relaxed and really listen to what we're talking about. It's going to be saved on IGTV. I'm also going live on Facebook. It's going to be on Facebook, and Sahar is going to upload it on YouTube. So
If
it's
if it's
saved.
going to live, don't we have a time limit, Sudhi?
No, we passed that. Now we can go 2 or 3 hours.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, we're good. So it's also going to be uploaded on YouTube. So there's nothing to worry about. Relax and enjoy the show. Okay.
Very good.
So we had this question about having a judgment, the other part. I told you I know my audience. So at what stage would you say that I'm setting boundaries about others, how the others are judging me, their view of me, or how would I be like, how would I know what's the stage? Like, now I have to care because, for instance, our conversations, right? When you and I are having a conversation, I'm totally out of that lens is how I'm being judged. I mean, I do that the majority of time, right? But once you say something, because I am giving you some credit as someone who's knowledgeable in this field, once you respond to me or give me something that could translate as a judgment, um, I take that in, and then I don't get upset or I don't say why did he say that, right? I take it in and sit in the truth of it and see how I'm going to get it on. So this question, what she's asking is, how do we set the boundaries that it's some information that's coming towards me that is helpful and useful and I need to look into it, or something that is randomly I'm just worrying about what they're thinking about me. If somebody said, I think you have put on some weight, I get so how do we set that boundary?
So let's see if I understand the question correctly. How do I recognize which one of my judgments are beneficial and which ones are not?
Now these are from others.
I understand. Yeah. How do I okay. All right. So uh, I have a hard time answering that because it's been many years that I really don't care what other people's judgments are.
Yeah.
However, where I come from is treating people in a respectful way and respecting their boundaries. If I make a mistake, to apologize for it. And then I don't have to get involved in this whole conversation of what their judgment about me is. I really don't care.
I mean, no,
And
sir, in a way,
once you
in a,
come to accept yourself
Mhm.
and believe that you are at best a complete paradox, that you have black and white in you, and all humans do, then your caring about what other people think or don't think goes away quickly.
no, no, Sergio, this to me, I'm sorry, and I know to the majority of people is just lecture. Something that we already know and is not going to help me. Let us know if you know of a tool that can strengthen daily by not caring and not caring and not caring.
Really easy, Sudhi,
What?
is the judgment. So let's say you and I are sitting face to face and you pass some judgment about me, right? Is that real enough for you?
Yeah.
Okay, you pass a judgment about me, and somehow that judgment comes about, and I sense it.
Okay.
All I need to do is ask myself a question: would believing in her belief about me helpful to me or not?
Now ask me the question again, Nasser. What was my judgment on you?
Whatever. Let's say you have a judgment about me.
Right.
Let's say you don't like the glasses I'm wearing. Just
Mhm.
simple as that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you either express that to me or somehow you communicate it. Most people, especially in our culture, communicate their judgments through a question. Are these glasses comfortable for you? Well, if they weren't comfortable, I wouldn't wear it, right? Since we don't have the guts to say things to people of saying, that glass looks awful on you. We
Yeah.
ask a question, right? Okay. So however that judgment comes about, then for me is, do I care enough? Does that judgment alter anything in me? Does it carry anything that's important to me for me to pay attention to it?
Mhm.
You know, I was a few years ago, I was driving in Iran and I hadn't driven there for a long time. And my assistant was with me, and I came to one of those maiduns and I got really confused about where to go. and a taxi driver came next to me and opened the window and he says, "Oh, gusale." And, and so I kind of thought, okay, and I looked at him and my assistant started apologizing to me and I said, doesn't matter. He doesn't know whether I'm one or not. So we pay too much attention to and give too much importance to other people's thinking process because we are doing the same with ourselves. Mm-hmm. We feel everything that comes out of our mind is fact, and is not. These are just signals passing through. Mm-hmm. The same with other people. You're having a judgment about me that my glasses are ugly. Well, great. You have a choice of not looking at me. Go away.
Mm-hmm. I get that, Nasser, but what I'm saying is, okay, logically we all know that. But we were so deep into letting it in, letting it in, letting it in. Now I am aware that technically or logically I shouldn't allow it.
Question it then. Question it.
Okay,
there is no.
I'm looking for a tools that
the
something
tool is
that's going to strengthen this.
The tool is questioning it. As
okay,
I'm sitting there and I'm getting your
my
judgment, I'm questioning it. How important is to these judgments about my glasses to me?
Right. So going back to the same recipe, guys, we're going to keep on questioning it. Where is this coming? According to who? How correct or correct is this? So we're going back to the same process of questioning it. But someone wrote, when you're living with a partner, their judgment towards you really affects you and your relationship. But you have to use the same recipe, right?
And tell them. Huh? Be truthful. Tell them. Tell your partner, I feel you're having this judgment on me. Am I making this up or is it true? Mm-hmm. Verify your thoughts. Questioning is a way of verifying your thoughts and emotions. If you're in a close relationship, verify it.
So Nasser, last question. How much do you think what I'm seeing there, it's my feeling or my perception, if I come back to myself, would help? Would that be an approach that if, for instance, my mother or my husband or my father is constantly judging me, that's giving me bad feeling, would it help if I just leave them alone and come back to myself and see I am the experiencee, so I should work this out on myself? Would that help?
You know, I think it's always a combination. I would like to be straightforward with people of saying, I'm getting this sense of I'm being judged about this specific thing about you. Is my mind making this up or is it true? Mm-hmm. Immediately verify it. And that does two things. One is that it creates an expression. Secondly is questioning, coming back to questioning. And now you're questioning the other person. And if the other person is doing that and you're having a close relationship, opens the door to a new level of communication. Oh yeah, I'm having that judgment about you. That statue that's there is not supposed to be there.
Yeah, and but you know, Nasser, sorry to cut you off. When you're in an abusive relationship, it's not even the matter of you asking. Like you have an abusive, narcissist husband or boyfriend who's constantly telling you you're fat or you're just too nervous or I mean, it's already past that stage. That, excuse me, I'm talking about more, and I'm the person who's saying.
My answer is really simple. Don't be in that relationship.
Yes, that's easy to say, but you know our community and whatever. But going back to my question for you.
No, but let's come back to the comment of our community. Our community has remained the same because of exactly what you just said. You know our community. If our community wants to move forward, it needs to come out of this hijab. It needs to come out of this hiding the truth. It needs to come out of all of these things that we call customs, it needs to come out of that. So if you want to start with yourself, then start with you. Cut people out of your life that are not making you feel good. And more importantly, don't do it to others. If you don't do it to others, it won't be done to you. Sudhi, you and I have shared this many times. When I started this line, I lost about 1/3 of my best friends. Because they just had no room for me anymore because I wasn't willing to put up with certain things.
Yeah, I hear you.
And
we had this conversation recently, and I told you, I said, I'm trying to do this, but it's like the more I'm trying to cut off people, the more they force and they become community, like they're forcing in.
Yep. Change. If you want to change, if we want to, the community itself, Sudhijan, is a aggregation of belief systems that has become really dense.
Yeah.
If we want to be part of this community, if we care about this community, we have to start becoming truthful. And the truth is that overall, we have a community that is not working quite well. Despite 35 years of Dr. Holakui's hard work, despite many people doing lots of work, including you and I, our community is not moving forward. Individuals within the community, yes, but then I don't call that community. But community as a whole is ill. And the illness from my perspective is that we really haven't learned to tell the truth.
Yes.
We got to tell the truth. And before we can tell the truth to somebody else, we have to tell the truth to ourselves. And how do we tell the truth to ourselves? This belief is no longer useful to me. That's the truth. Doesn't matter where you came from. Doesn't matter how strong you are. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter. You are no longer useful to me. Go away.
Yeah.
So
I talk a lot about, Nasser, transparency, being authentic and transparency. And a lot of people, because I keep talking about this, I did a live yesterday, and I talked about this. I said, I'm going to be really transparent. I lost my place. I mean, if you're not mindful, if you're not aware, we get into the system. And I realized all of a sudden, oops, I got too involved with Instagram and doing this and doing that, and I let the system use me. So I'm transparent enough to say, yes, if I lose myself, I'm going to be right where everyone is. Even if this is my teaching, at time it happens to me. As soon as I'm not conscious about it, it can happen.
So I have an invitation for you.
Yes.
If I may.
Yes.
Don't use the word authentic or transparent. They have layers of meanings. The word that gets directly to the fact of it is truthfulness.
Okay.
If you look up dictionary, if you look up usage of transparency and or authenticity, they are very complex words. And the mind gets involved with complex words and starts playing all kinds of games. If you want to get to truthfulness, simplify the language with which you speak to yourself and other people. Truthfulness. We got to be truthful. It is through truthfulness that we become mature beings, because we tell the truth now. We tell the truth to ourselves. That level of behavior is no longer useful to me. Go away. When we start writing down our belief systems, if we are really truthful, we write the most painful stuff. And we don't get away from it. We face it. Facing something is truthfulness. The reason I saw a few comments, some people saying about, unfortunately, our community this, unfortunately this. You know, when we talk about our community, you and I are part of that community.
Yeah.
We are it. We are it. I cannot, as a person, Persian person that I'm extremely proud of, I cannot sit back and say I'm not part of this community. So, but within the community itself, I have created my own with the like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
The bubbles. You got to create bubbles. And then small bubbles sort of come together, create a larger bubble, and the larger bubble becomes a larger bubble. One of the challenges that we have in our culture is we basically do not uh, we basically do not we are not willing to take responsibility. It's always the community, it's always this, it's always your responsibility. So that comes back, Sudhi, to something that you were saying to me you have done, and something I shared with you how I did in my last relationship. We become rescuers.
Mm-hmm.
We want to rescue other people while we ourselves are drowning.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. A friend of mine some years back said something really good to me. He said something insightful. He said, imagine that you're driving and on the side of the road there is a ditch, and you see a car that has, by driving bad or whatever it is, has gone into that ditch. Can you help that car get out? I said, well, yeah, I will. What would you do? Well, I go and try to tow the car out. And he goes, how can you tow a car out when you are a car yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be a truck to be able to tow the car out.
Yeah.
So before we are able to help anybody, we gotta help ourselves. Otherwise, it comes across as manipulation and useless.
Mm-hmm.
And that is facing the truth.
Yes.
So if you wanna help other people, let's help ourselves by telling the truth to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a passing comment. Somebody says, but we don't understand your language. I don't know what that means. So
Yeah, there repeatedly I announced that Sudabe Burnett is my Farsi Instagram. Sudi _ Burnett. Please don't come there and say speak. Yeah, this is something that we haven't been able to establish, that although we're Persian, but we want to have an English speaking channel, but
right.
some people
No, I
don't.
thought maybe something I said that they did not understand.
No.
That's why
That
I was
they're
asking.
saying, yeah, it's the language.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Very
we
good.
haven't established that, but hopefully we will in the future. Now, sir, before we wrap this up, I told them it's something, but I have to ask you because I can't do it without you. Would it be a possibility that I can have a join live with you once a week?
Yeah, we can. We can. It's. I don't want to make a promise right now. We have to come up with subjects. As you well know, I'm a researcher, and I do research in different areas. Some related to my book, some related to my own interests, and I really would like to talk about things that are different than what has been talked about. And
That would be fabulous. That's really
right.
welcome.
Right. So we can certainly talk about it. You and I are in contact. We can talk about and come up with subjects. This is a as I come up with different ways of looking at things and thinking about things and all that, certainly.
We are very open to the subjects or the topics that you choose. We love to be a part of it. And
Sure.
I'm very thankful and grateful for you, Nasser, for being
my pleasure.
Not only one of my best friends, a supporter, but also helping Persian community to evolve and to...
No, I'm not doing that. No, wait a second. I'm not doing that.
I knew you were going to say that.
No.
It's my life.
I'm not helping anybody. I'm not helping anybody do anything anymore, Sudhi. I am basically sharing some information that's of interest to me and some tools that are scientific tools. Whatever people like to do with that is their responsibility. I'm just here as a person sharing information. for some of your audiences that are interested also to hear some of these conversations in Farsi language, I will have the very same discussion you and I had hopefully next week on my Instagram site in Farsi. I don't, as you all know, I don't have an English site yet. All my talks are in Farsi.
Okay,
Which
when is that, Nasser?
we'll announce it for the people who are interested to sort of become a member on my side, not member, what do they call it? Follower on my side.
Yeah,
And then when we post it, it will definitely be there. Of course, you will get that notice too.
definitely. We'll do that. We will announce it.
Yeah, and then definitely, Sudijan, I also want to thank you. Whenever I share some of my thoughts, whether it's in this format or on my own, I walk away learning a lot more myself. Mm-hmm. And so a few, as a way of wrapping up, I also like to say a few of your followers made comments that there is no shortcut. And I really want to emphasize that. There is no shortcut. Mm-hmm. We have developed this very sophisticated brain that is completely our body. We just need to learn how to use it.
Yeah.
And once we don't, it will become the enemy. So thank you. I appreciate the time and the opportunity, and hopefully we'll talk soon again.
Sure. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Nasser John.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.